Good morning. Welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 36. Today is February 19th, 2016. My name is Jay Oza. I am the host of this show, and I'm also the mentor for the Coursera course, Introduction to Public Speaking. And I have on the show, as usual, Julie Wu Finkelstein, who is also a mentor for the Introduction to Public Speaking course from Coursera, and among other things. And I'll let her introduce herself once I go through the welcoming part and introducing the show. So one of the things is that this is part of the learning community that we have created, and we are closely affiliated with the Coursera course Introduction to Public Speaking. And this is sort of our way as a mentor, because there are so many people taking this course from different geographies that it's hard to really respond to many postings that take place on the discussion forum. So what Julie and I and others who want to contribute to the show and participate, this is sort of our way of discussing many of the topics around public speaking. And it's educational, because we are trying to teach certain things that we just can't teach on a one-on-one basis. It's just not feasible. And it's also for us to learn too, because public speaking is one of those things where you just don't teach, you have to also be doing it. So some of the things that we try to do on this show is learning is a main topic. We all want to we're all students of public speaking. Then we are also in a position to teach, because we've been doing this for quite some time. And Julie and I, as you can see, this is number 36, our show. So we know a lot at this point. We have reviewed many speeches, both on the show and also on the Coursera discussion forum. We've gone through their course multiple times. We record a lot of videos. So we do quite a bit, to the point where we can help others. We're not at this point professional speakers or inspirational speakers. I mean, that's the ultimate. But I think we know quite a bit to help people who want to become, as I like to call it, good to great speaker. So one of the things that I'm doing is, since I've been mentoring now for more than a year, probably close to 2 years, because it started even before this went to an on-demand platform. And I'm currently working on a book, taking things that I've learned from mentoring and also from my speaking journey. And the book is currently I'm currently working on my second draft, and hopefully once it's available, I'd like to create maybe several weeks to just kind of go through the books and find maybe 4 or 5 people who want to kind of go through the book with me. So that's something I'm going to kind of open it up once we reach the point where I think the book is open for wider distribution. And part of the show also is to practice. And one of the things we do is we do this 3-minute segment where it's an opportunity for all of us to pick a topic, not something, maybe I like to use hack-a-speech approach. You can use the hack-a-speech method and craft a speech before you get on and just talk about it like you would if you had an opportunity to talk at work or in a social setting or even in a business setting. So that's what we'll do. And again, one thing I want to point out is this is a very trusting environment. Nobody here is there to ridicule. We're here to offer you help in a manner that is that you want to take it. So this is the purpose of being on the show is to improve. I mean, I want to improve, and feedback is very important. And sometimes the kind of feedback you'll get, you should be making it easier for somebody to give you the feedback. So that's part of learning too. Feedback is a very important part. Otherwise, you can't improve. So that's what we try to do in this learning community. And part of this is our offering here called the Speech Talk Live, where we don't have a real big structure. We have a few segments. We have the 3-minute segment that we'll go into once the quick introduction part is done. Then today I have created 3 segments. The first segment is more about teaching, that speaking is teaching. And one of the ideas that I'm kind of floating that I would like to discuss is a good way to find out if you're a good teacher is take something that you're passionate about. And I picked music because we all seem to have some passion about the kind of music we like. depending on where you grow up, like, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I'm pretty sure that that music I like, but the people that are growing up now, the music they like, they probably have no understanding of that music. In my case, I like classical music, so I'll talk about that. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is my example. And if you and Julie, Atul and Julie, if you have a particular music you like, this will be a chance for you to show us, why we should appreciate that music if we don't understand it or we don't know about it. The second topic is something that Julie had recorded, and she took her energy hack, how to generate energy like quickly, right? Like a lot of people go through all kinds of stress, and she has recorded this video. So part of our purpose in recording is to have Julie talk about it, and then we can offer some comment on not only the content, but also on the speech delivery, if there's anything she can do to improve. And that's what she's offering us, so I included that video. And in the third segment, I've taken a speech from Emile Wapnick, I think her name is, and she has recorded this speech about multi-potentiality. So I wanted to review that speech because I think her content is excellent, and also her delivery I think is pretty good. But there's still things that she could have done better, but I think part of it is also TED kind of constricts you in a certain way. So I want to talk about mainly the content part of it, but since we also review speech, we'll talk about that. So that's the show for today, and I always like to say, you are how you speak. And this show is your opportunity to practice that, so you are at your best when you're in a position to speak, whether it's one-on-one, in a small group in a meeting, or in front of a large audience. So that's the show for today. At this point, I'd like Julie and Atul to go through their quick introduction, and then we'll move on to our first segment, which is the 3-minute segment. Julie?
Hi, I was thinking if Atul can try, if we can't hear him, then I'll introduce and he can go on. Atul, can you? No, we're not hearing you. Okay. Good morning. I'm Julie Wu Finkelstein. I live in sunny Stanford, the sun out today. And today what I would like to say is I am interested in creating communities for practices that are simple and deep, gentle and powerful, and support you wherever you are. In the sense that I think most of us spend our lives in activities that can be grouped into 3 categories. One is stress and survival, and that includes like pain, basically healing the stress or relieving pain. The second one is wanting to be successful, right? Whether it's financial or relationship, we want to have mastery of that. And the third category is authenticity, where we want to be who we really are in this universe, and I call that the philosophical or spiritual sector. So these activities that I am gathering, I've been practicing for decades. I would like to share with people in either one-on-one or community or workshops. And today we're going to talk about energy, because energy is a fundamental thing that powers everything we do. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julie. And Atul is having an issue with his mic, so I asked him to use the chat as a way to introduce himself and to kind of communicate. I don't know how long he's going to be on. So Atul, we're going to have to count on you to participate using the chat session. So I'll introduce Atul. So Atul is based out of, Atul tries to join us, seems like every other week. And he is based out of, I think, Washington State. I think Bellevue, Washington, right? Yeah, right, he's nodding. Bellevue, Washington. He's a software engineer, and I believe he works for Expedia. That's the company he works for. So he's one hotshot software engineer. So, and one of the things I was like really looking forward to is because last time when he was on, he was talking about this hackathon that he was going to be attending, and I was hoping to learn more about his experience from that. That he was actively involved in helping out. So unfortunately, we're not going to get to listen to him. Maybe next time when he has his audio problem is fixed, then maybe we can get him to talk about his experience and what he learned, and we tried to ask him to do certain things, and I want to know whether he did any of that and what did he learn from it. So so Atul, you can just use the chat session as best as you can, and sorry to see that you're having this problem, because we wanted to really find out more about it. Yeah, this is technology. You're a software engineer. Maybe you can fix it by the end of the show. Here's your opportunity. So, but the good thing is, guess what? You don't have to mute your line because it's already muted.
I want to say now he's a software wizard, because we expect him to do it just like that.
Yeah, so maybe he's not. Otherwise, why would he be having this problem? So sometimes the software engineer is only good when they get paid. When they're not getting paid, they can't fix anything.
Speak for yourself.
Oh yeah, right. That's what my wife tells me. I can't fix anything. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause, and we're going to move into our 3-minute segment. Okay, welcome back. My name is Jay Oza, and at this part of the show, we do our 3-minute speech segment, and the purpose of this is to just it's a free speaking. You pick any topic and speak about it for 3 minutes. Now, it's not like you just pick any topic. One of the methods that I follow is what I like to call it is a hack a speech approach, where I will have a kind of a brief outline. For this speech that I'm going to give today, I didn't do this because this is just something that I observed that I wanted to talk about. So this is not really a kind of speech there will be any kind of follow-on that people will say, hey, I want to know more about it, because I think everything I'm going to tell you is pretty much going to be included in this speech. So I wanted to talk about something that I observed. It must have been a while back. I don't even remember the exact date. Maybe, let's just say 10 years ago. And I had gone to see a concert. I think it was an Indian classical concert with my uncle and my cousin. And I believe one of the performer was Zakir Hussain. I think he's a tabla player, right? Atul, is that right? Yeah, Zakir Hussain. And it was an excellent concert. And after the concert was over, we were waiting to get our car because we had parked it at one of the parking garages. And somehow they had some kind of problem, so we were just waiting and waiting. And across the street, there was a theater there, and there were people waiting online. And I didn't know what that was all about, so I went and asked somebody. I said, who are these people waiting online? It was a long line, actually. And they said, oh, they're waiting for Denzel Washington. And I was like, oh, Denzel Washington, the actor? He said, yeah, because he's starring in this show called Othello. And after the show is over, he's going to come by and sign autographs. And I said, oh, okay, that'll be interesting. So a little while later, he did, because remember, our show also ended at the same time that his show must have ended too. So then after the show was ended, he came out and he was signing autographs. And what was amazing was that line had a lot of people, and somehow where we were stuck. They had some kind of malfunction with some mechanical thing, so that our car just never was delayed. They were trying to fix it, so we ended up waiting for an hour. Meantime, he signed every single autograph till the last person, and he was there for more than an hour. And I was very impressed because Denzel Washington, even 10 years ago, today he's a big star, and he's a huge star. But he really showed me something that, being a celebrity, he still cared for his fans, that he was willing to take time out after the show. And let's face it, we don't realize it, but these people put in a lot of work. This is a Shakespeare play, Othello. And then he afterwards stayed for an hour signing every single autograph. And I remember at the last point, there was only one person left, and, he even signed that, and then it was over. And I don't know whether we left before he finished or not, but it was very close. But it was pretty impressive. That time I realized that, a lot of times the celebrities get bad rap, like, oh, they're mean and this and that. But not when I saw Denzel Washington, it changed my outlook that these celebrities, they do care about their fans. And I learned something from that, a lot of these celebrities, they're popular because they do know how to connect with their fans. Anyway, that's my story. Julie?
Good morning. So I was sharing this apparent tragedy, a trauma in my life. Because yesterday I was walking and I slipped, and my body flew up, and I landed on my right cheekbone, and I still have a bruise, and there's definitely some trauma going in my brain. But the good news is I recover amazingly, because here I am. And I feel vulnerability, and I just to be here, I want to share my story with you. Part of the reason I recover so well, and I'm 65 years old, so part of the reason why I recover so well is I think because of these practices that I do. Today, I want to talk about this basic concept. When you have power, when you show power in your body, you have confidence in your mind. When you have confidence, it shows in your body. And this is recently reflected to me with Jay's help, Amy Cuddy's recent book called Presence. And one of the things that I want you to do, and you guys, I want you to do it with me, is raise your hand. Raise one hand, raise the other. How do you feel? Now, before you bring it down, I want you to imagine there is a golf ball in your armpit. And the golf ball, you have to hug it, but you want to lower your arm so your shoulders has to be wider to contain the armpit. Now, just relax your shoulder, but imagine there's a golf ball in your armpit. So you have to kind of have a little energy because you want to gently hug that golf ball, and you don't want it to fall out, so you can go back, bring your shoulder back a little bit so your shoulder is naturally broader, and then release your arm. So you will see that there's a curvature in your hand, right? So people who are not confident squeezes their shoulders up like that, right, when they're tense. So when people say lower your shoulder, you can see your arms are still too tight, okay? When you put a golf ball in your shoulder, in your armpit, using your imagination, this is the power pose. Amy in his book demonstrates that when people who are in power, when they walk, they don't walk like this. They walk with a little bit of space because they own the world, right? So I want to hack this idea down to our bottom. So because most of us look at the power pose, we see the upper body, we forget that our body is actually has 4 limbs and a head. So when you really look, can you see that? When you really look at it, we are a starfish. We are 5-limbed starfish, okay? So you want to empower your lower body even more because your lower body is the foundation that generates the energy up. So I come up with this quickie method. You can do it standing up or you can even do it sitting because it's very useful in a meeting for you to do this. Is most of us are, I'm going to do this, most of us are pretty tight here, okay? And if you look at Amy Cuddy's videos in her speech, not the TED one, but the later one, people who are not in power, they don't occupy space. So they walk very narrowly. So imagine that there is a tennis ball between your legs and that you're hugging it up and bringing it up to your belly button. But it's a very gentle, so you're not doing it with muscle, but you're doing it with internal power, with your imagination. When you do that, you can see how I naturally straighten. And also, our hip widens up. And then your legs also, your feet will be a little bit wider. It should be about shoulder width. And then when you walk, you can sway, okay? As you sway, the whole momentum of your body changes. So when you are walking, do not walk like a tight ass. Do not be a tight ass. Take the power. Exactly, Jay. Take this power because you own everything around you. 8 feet wide, okay? That's your personal space. And then imagine there's a tennis ball between your legs, and as you walk, you will have this very powerful walk. Then one more quickie, and I'll sum it up for you quickly. One more quickly is simply imagine if someone drops a dime through the top of your head, it's going to fall through your anus into the center of the earth. So what that does is it relaxes the chin and aligns the head. So if you're not familiar with that, hold the back of your ears up to the ceiling, and you will naturally see that your chin is usually like this. There's a lot of tension here. Your chin relaxes. Okay, so the energy that's coming from your feet up through your buttocks, now that it's released, through your heart up to your head. Okay, so your whole body, the starfish, is truly energized. And then you do some belly breathing. When you breathe in, you breathe into your belly. When you breathe out, you breathe out through your belly. I believe that in the thousands of years that this power pose has never been shared in the way that Amy Cuddy does it, or the way I'm doing that now, because the Eastern societies is not about individual power. Okay. However, I do believe that there's a new possibility for the world, because individual power is the beginning of collective power. So take your place in the world by taking the starfish pose, put those balls in your armpits and your legs, and then imagine someone's pulling you through up to the ceiling and drop a dime through. And if you're in a meeting, you're sitting, start with the tennis ball between your legs, and your hips will widen up, and you will take space and naturally be more powerful. So thank you. I hope that was useful. So in quick summary, whether you're sitting or standing, imagine there's a tennis ball between your legs. Relax and hug it gently. Bring that up if you like. Put some golf balls in your armpits and drop your shoulders. You'll naturally go wider. And then imagine someone's pulling you up through your head, and then breathe deeply. Take in the whole world, because you own the whole world. Thank you.
Oh, that was good. So I've got a question for you. So actually, I do have golf balls. So this is just make-believe, right? You don't really need to put the actual...
If you have golf balls, it would be fun to do it. Like when I was doing Tai Chi, we have some Tai Chi sticks that we use, for energy. Right. So if you put golf balls in there, go back and forth and right and left and up and down and play with that. It will enhance your nervous system.
So next week you can do a segment where you can actually get people to bring. So I can bring a tennis ball and also a golf ball, and we can.
We'll see. I'm full of surprises. I'm not going to be constrained by you this week.
So next week I could say, please bring in a golf ball, and I can show you exactly how it would work, so you get an idea. So that's good. So the other thing
is you do it and tell us what it's like next week.
Right. No, I don't know if I will be doing it right, because the other thing I tried to do, what you were saying, is like slap your face and stuff.
Yes, you don't slap with your fingers. You cup your hands.
Oh, like this.
No, it's actually the energy is coming through the palm of your hand.
Like this.
Oh, see, you're doing this.
Yeah.
But you want to cup it so the energy is coming through.
So like this?
It's chi, yeah, like this. You want to be you're being too gentle. Oh. You won't hurt. You won't hurt because there is a buffering.
Padding, yeah.
Yeah, there's buffering, and that's the whole idea in Chinese. That's not just air, but it's chi, it's prana, it's energy. So as you do this...
So am I doing it right, like this?
Yeah, you can be more relaxed, but basically like that. And then just tap. Start with your shoulders and your neck.
Oh, okay.
Because you can be a lot easier. So you see, you're still using the fingertip. You want the place where you want to contact to be the palm. So if I want to hit right here, my palm is there because I'm actually injecting energy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
there should be some kind of a noise that would indicate you did it right.
Yes, that's right. And my friend Pat, she had she's a person I work with there twice a week in those stretches. She had a problem with her knee, so we couldn't really stretch. So I showed her this technique, and she was so much energized. The next time we got together, she asked to do that instead of the stretching.
And when is a good time to do this?
Thank you. That is, you can do it anytime. It's a good practice to do it early in the morning because it's invigorating. But it's also, like for me, it's really good for me to do it if I'm stuck. Like if I want to write a paper, or if I try to do a speech, and I can't move forward because it relieves the stagnation and opens up the energy. And then I think it's also really good to do it before you take a bath or shower because it opens up the pores, and so when you take a bath, the water washes away the toxins. Right. So anytime.
Any part of the body, right?
Yes. The whole body is good. It's a famous tapping technique, and I always find that the base of the neck, where the head meets the neck, it's a very high energy juncture, and where the shoulder and the neck meet, those are really good areas to do.
Right. So the thing is, like, just before you want to give a speech, I mean, Amy Cuddy always talks about the power pose. Is there a similar type of patting you should do before you give a speech?
Well, you know what? I always pat the base of my neck, and also this is in Chinese. It's called the kidney area or the life gate area, the gate of life. It's that you have your ribs on top and you have your hip bone at the bottom. Between the two areas are soft. So if you can cup your hands and you do this, it's a very classical energy technique. It's called Qigong. And in fact, I went to a Korean Zen center, and they do that after they sit, because the sitting brings in energy, and then they invigorate the body with this energy.
Right. And one last question, so we have to move on. This patting technique, what is it actually called?
It's called patting.
And where does it come from?
It's from the Chinese Qigong. Qi means energy. In Indian, it will be like prana. And in Hawaiian, it's mana. It just means vital life force. Right. And gong, the word gong means, it's spelled as G-O-N-G. The word means mastery or practice. So it's come from the ancient techniques of Qigong.
Qigong. Okay.
It's kind of like yoga, right? Chinese yoga.
Right, but I have not seen this in yoga, patting, anything like patting, unless Atul, you know more about yoga than I do. But like I've not seen patting as something. Yoga is mostly asanas, right? Where breathing is very important based on different asanas that you do, but not this patting part. It's something different.
Yeah, I'm saying it's Chinese yoga.
Yeah, so I think you're kind of combining a lot of different things and coming up with your old energy hack that you're calling it.
Yes, exactly. I'm picking like the ones that's very simple, very quick, and very effective.
Good. So, I like it. It's good.
Let me just say this. Currently, there's a resurgence of this technique called emotional freedom technique, EFT, where you tap different points of the body to relieve emotional trauma or depression. And my whole point is when you do patting, it's more effective and more efficient because you're putting more energy into your body, and you're also disrupting the current stasis, the current malfunctioning pattern much more rigorously.
Hey, something that Atul just pointed out. I know one of the people he was talking about wrestlers. One of the wrestlers that I see doing that, those sumo wrestlers, right? They always go.
Yes. Oh yes.
They always do that.
So that's why it's all about power. You know, right now I'm very interested in energy as a source of power to really like take your life,
It's
like
sort of
giving it the octane to take it to the next level.
It's very animalistic. The gorillas do it.
The gorillas do it this way, right? Or do they do it this way?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they came up with it. All right, let's take a pause. That was good. We need to do more on that. So I think when you do your session, we'll talk more about this.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a brief pause. And yeah, Atul, that was a good point about the wrestlers, sumo wrestlers. That's when we said wrestling. I immediately thought about it, that when you see sumo wrestlers, when they're getting ready to start their fighting, they just all stand and just do all of that. And that could be maybe just to psych the other guy out, or maybe there's some benefits there. All right, so we'll take a brief pause, and then we'll move to our first segment. Okay, welcome back. My name is Jay Yoza, and this is Speech Talk Live, episode number 36, segment number 1. And in this segment, I recorded a video, and this is a discussion that I wanted to have with Atul and Julie. Atul probably through chat session, and it has to do with when you're speaking, you are teaching. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? There's something you're teaching, and one of this speech that we'll review later on by Emile Wapnick regarding multi-potentiality. She's teaching. She's teaching them about some of the 3 superpowers of multi-potentiality. And if it's a content-heavy speech, you are going to be teaching. Otherwise, you know, you're just entertaining, or you're not doing anything, pretty much, right? So, how do you know whether you're effective in doing that? So you have to pick a topic that you can take, that you're really passionate about, and the question is, can you then take that and explain it to somebody else? So one of the topics that I think it's kind of universal has to do with music, unless you just have no interest in music, and I haven't found anybody that has no interest in music. And when there's a generational gap, like whether you're young, old, or whatever, there is always a music that you tend to appreciate more, that you tend to listen to. I have pretty much a wide range of taste. I listen to all kinds of music, you know, Indian, American, classical, all sorts of music. But you know, I tend to like appreciate classical music a lot because I've spent a lot of time listening to it. I haven't had any kind of formal training in this. I never took a course. I don't play an instrument. I don't even know how to read music, but I do appreciate classical music. Opera, I'm still not there yet. I listen to certain operas, but I can't say I listen to Wagner or anything like that. Those are a little too heavy for me, and also they take too long. So, if you know, common question that I always get when I listen to classical music is that, oh, I don't understand it, and my question is like, what is there to understand? It's music, right? Music, there's no really such a thing. So the question is, how can I make somebody appreciate what I appreciate and get them to at least understand it? I'm not sure whether they'll appreciate it. So in this video, what I did was I took Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and this is a masterpiece, right? So it's not like I picked something that's nobody knows anything about, and it's a classical piece. It's been around for for a long time now. But then the question is, how do you explain it? You can't just say, hey, you should listen to music, it's so great. I mean, that doesn't really help the other person. So I tried to use the Beethoven Fifth Symphony and try to show that what Beethoven is trying to communicate, music is about communication, and he's an artist, right? And either you appreciate or you don't appreciate. But since this is a classical music, people have been appreciating it for a long time. So I'm trying to connect this to public speaking. And I said, you know, a lot of the things he does in this music is very similar to what we try to do if we were effective in public speaking. He starts with his motive right from the beginning. There is no real introduction. He goes right into it, and then he just plays around with that motive throughout the whole composition, especially in the first movement and also in the third and the fourth movement. And the way he does it is so amazing, right? That's the whole piece. And I said, well, isn't that something that we would want to do when we're speaking? Like, here's our main idea, like what Julie was saying before we started, that you need that slogan, whatever that slogan is. But that slogan has to repeat throughout the entire speech so that people remember it, like, what are you doing with that? So let's say my slogan in the video that I say, you are how you speak. Well, I just can't just say that in the beginning and then just don't say it again, because that has to be throughout all the different aspects of that. Like you're how you speak, whether it's one-on-one, you're how you speak, whether you're in a meeting, you're how you speak, whether you're in front of a large audience. And if that's how I started the speech, so let's say if I want to mimic my speech exactly like the Beethoven's Fifth, there's a way to do it. And I'm just trying to use that in a way that's kind of challenging the other person, but also showing them that there is a way to appreciate this music, not just because it's artistic, but there's a lot that you can learn from that music and what you're doing in your in speaking, for example, or it could be something else. So my whole point of this is that music is a good way to show what kind of a teaching skills do you have, and take any music, whether it's country music, whether it's Indian classical music, but the burden is on you. You need to make it so that the other person appreciates it without using any musical jargon and stuff, because the other person won't get it. So I thought this was a good way to really show whether you have the right type of teaching skills, because if you cannot do it with music, then the question is, how are you going to be able to do it with something that is not even something so fundamental? So Julie and Atul. Atul, I know you can't communicate, but Julie, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think? I mean, this could apply to sports and any kind of artistic type of sports, art, movies, anything like that.
Yeah, I think that you're right that every time when we I will use the word sharing. Whenever we are in someone else's presence, we are sharing a part of ourselves. And when we are speaking, we are using that verbal medium to share an idea. So in a certain sense, it's teaching because it's definitely communicating an idea in the way that they want to get it. We want them to get it the way we want to share it. And, the Tibetans like to say everybody we meet is a teacher for us, that we have something to learn. And I think that you're saying every time you speak, you want to make it worthwhile for people to listen. And I appreciate that. And a friend of mine whom I introduced you to, Michael, he's a musician. He's releasing an album. And I think that maybe your talk makes sense, because what he needs to do is convey the message of who he is and why people should listen to him. In a sense, he's teaching people about his music. And then because of your video, I emailed some messages, impression I got about his music. And he says, well, I like that. I hope the journalists will pick it up and write it that way. And my point was, and then I replied to him, I said, well, we need to create the narrative. So he and I'd like to invite you too, to maybe we can do a session on what is he to share, or what does he want to teach with his people who will hear his music. Because my husband was a consultant. He really knew how to use the journalists. And one thing I learned from my husband is journalists don't have time to listen and deepen and cultivate and create a narrative. What they're really good at is taking a narrative you have. If they think it's interesting, they will share it with the world. So I think this will be a very exciting project for us all, based on your video. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately he's not on the show today. But what I think what you may want to do there is work with him, so that I'm not biased in any way, because you know him better than me. And once you think he has it, then I think it would be appropriate to bring me into it. So that way I'm not, because otherwise if I'm involved in the beginning, then I'll be biased. So it would be better if you work with him and try to use the technique that you're already familiar with, and then saying, okay, I think, Michael, you have it now. Let's get my opinion, since I would not have known exactly what you guys come up with. So then I'll be in a better position to say, yeah, this sounds good. And that way I know that you've given some thought to it, rather than just both of us being on with him together. I don't know if that makes sense, because I think it will, because I think he knows you better than me, so that having you, he'll be much open. He'll have that much free session with you working with him one-on-one. And then once you think he's at a certain point, let's say 80% there, then I can come in and I'll have a fresh outlook to it. And it may be not correct, but at least you'll get a fresh point, eyes to, or viewpoint that you guys have spent some time working on. So I think that would be good. And I think the main thing is that the music that he is composing, and I think one of them is he has to define who he is, right? Because the first in anything in life is you yourself are the message, first of all. Then the question is the music related to some kind of his story? Because people tend to appreciate music if it's somehow tied to somebody's personal story. The why part that Simon Sinek always talks about, right? You start with why. Like, why compose this music? Like, what does this mean to you? There has to be something that he's trying to communicate. Now, remember one thing, he's an artist. That means that he's just creating it based on how he wants to feel, how he's feeling. But that doesn't mean that that's how we will appreciate it. We can appreciate it. When somebody creates, then that's out of your control. It's not like an engineer. You build it and there's nothing you can do about it. You either use it or you don't use it, right? Once an iPhone is built, you can't go to Apple and saying, I wish you could do it this way. It's too bad. The iPhone is done. You got to use it the way it's done. But when it comes to artistic type of things, it's up to us to interpret it and appreciate it the way we want to. You can't dictate that, but you can at least help people understand why you did what you did. And I think once he does that, then he'll be able to, I think, just going through that exercise. A lot of people don't even go through that exercise on if somebody came to me and asked me, so Michael, what kind of music do you listen to? What kind of music do you compose? And the right answer is not the what, it's like the why do I even write music in the first place? Or why do I even create this a composition or this artistic work? That's very important, the why part of it. And then once people understand the why, they're more likely to say, yeah, let me see, I'm more interested now. So he has to get people excited to appreciate his why. That's what his challenge is.
Okay, great. I will listen to this and then I'll set up a session with him. So those are good advice. Thank you so much.
Right. And again, this is just for this one, we're saying that the purpose of this is to teach, right? Because he would be in a position to teach people. And every time you're speaking, you are teaching, unless you're just entertaining. And I think this is a skill that we need to practice a lot. So anytime you have an opportunity where you know something, you now have to make it so that the other person appreciates. Like, for example, football. A lot of people don't appreciate football. So if you want somebody to appreciate football, you have to spend some time thinking about it. Like Julie has done that with her energy hack, all of these different poses. Her burden now is to make other people appreciate it. Like, why should I do it? Why should I get off my butt and do the stretching exercises? What is in it for me? And that's her challenge, because otherwise all you would be doing is just showing what I'm doing, but it doesn't really, you're not transferring that to me. And that's what teachers do. Teachers they do transference. There's a transference taking place. And that applies to anything. I just use music here as an example. So Julie, any closing thoughts before we close this session out, segment?
No, great segment. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, we'll take a brief pause and move to our second segment. Okay, welcome back. My name is Jay Yoza. This is Speech Talk Live, episode number 36, and this is segment number 2. And in this segment, we are reviewing a video that Julie has recorded, and this is what she's calling it is energy hack, some of the simple exercise that one can do to, for well-being, something quick and actionable that anybody can do that has like an immediate effect on you. And it's a practice that you have to learn. You have to be disciplined. You have to turn it into a habit. but she's recorded this video where she talks about it. So rather than me talking about it, I'll let Julie kind of introduce the video, not just the video, but just to introduce the concept. And since she has recorded the video, if she wants to talk specifically about some of the things she likes about because this video, obviously, the purpose is that somebody else is going to watch it. I'm not sure whether this one's the case, but the question is, what are some of the things you like about what you did well here? What are things you think you could do better if you had to re-record it? So, Julie, I will turn this over to you so you can introduce the topic and then talk specifically about the video that you recorded.
Okay, thanks, Jay. So, give you a little background in terms of why I made this video, some of the tricks or trade in the video, and then perhaps see what questions that could come up as we do that. As I said in the introduction, is that there are practices that I have learned over my 4 decades of body-mind practices that I think can really cut to the chase, give you energy. And that in our life as human beings, we basically want to be pain-free and survive. We want to succeed, have good relationships, that's our social mastery. And finally, we want to explore who we are, which is the existential question of philosophy and spirituality. Each of those sectors, for us to move from one state to another, takes energy. And yet, many people in this world cannot imagine the discipline of doing something an hour every day. However, there is a discipline of taking opportunity, finding little slots of opportunity and using that. And that is a kind of mental discipline, too. And for example, Mark Zuckerberg was able to develop a $20 billion business based on the idea of hackathon, right? So was very inspired by the energy, by the concept of hack. So, and then Jay and I were talking about hacker speech. So I used the hacker speech method to do a hacker energy concept. Basically, there's 5 little simple exercises. When you combine them together, they're much more powerful. But you can do them individually, and each of them are useful too. I would definitely like to get feedback from the speech. In terms of the speech, because I was doing it from the hacker method, it's not meant to be professional. It's more like a prototype, in the sense that get the content out there so that I can see how I deliver it. And as a prototype or as a pilot of the methodology, I really like it. It was innovative because up to now I've been looking at different ways of presenting energy practices as a routine or as a extended discipline. This one still takes discipline, but it's a discipline of looking for opportunities to do something important at the moment. I think my energy was better, and one of my challenges on videos, Jay, as you know, is when I'm speaking to someone who is there, like you're there now, I'm fine. But when I'm speaking to a blank video, it's very challenging for me. I come off looking wooden. I think there was improvements on that. And in fact, as you know, I started sending you videos, my DJB videos, and so I think I've rounded a corner on that. I'm not there yet. I don't know what that means, but I think I've made a huge change in direction. So with that, I turned it over to you.
Yeah, so I think, Julie, I think what you did here was excellent. What I like about it is that you're taking this hacker speech approach, and you're really like going at doing it, right? Because I think the whole purpose of hacker speech is that you don't want to try to make it perfect, and the speech is not perfect, but that's good. That's what we want, because sometimes what happens is a perfect speech might be perfect but may not be that effective. you want to show a little bit of imperfection, and hack a speech kind of does that, because you want to come across as relatable. And if I see a speech, sometimes one of the criticism I have of TED speeches are that they're too perfect. You're not sure whether that's how you would ever give a speech, because there are no errors, there's nothing, that they just kind of, very rarely there are any real mistakes that are really obvious. And I think the main thing is that you basically took a concept that you wanted to communicate, you hacked a speech, and you finished it. And sometimes, believe it or not, the version you do, this version, is going to be much better because you're not thinking too much, right? Your brain isn't trying to stop you and saying, Julie, you can't do this. Julie, you don't know. You at this point, your voice is not the, you just kind of let it go. And just like you said, some of the poses that you talked about, just like relax and just let it go. Because like I said, nobody's going to see this, right? This is your own version. And I think that at some point in that speech, you kind of just let it go and you came across as really relatable. And I think you need to do more of that. That sometimes you get a little too conscious, like, oh, I better put on my speaking face. And I think you should keep your Julie face on, because you're very relatable. You don't need to change it to your speaking face like you're speaking in a bunch of, a TEDx conference or something, right? You just basically speak to the people and let them see your personality, because I should be able to see your personality the way it is, not some made up something that's not who you really are. And if it means that people don't like it, then tough shit. That you can't change for people, okay? You got to be yourself. And I think when you just and take some risks, because like I said, in hack a speech, the whole point is to take a risk. And sometimes when you see the variance, right? When you're like how you vary your voice, how you vary your body motion, how you speak fast, speak slowly, speak louder, speak softly. Try all sorts of different variations to bring out your entire personality into that speech, because the first thing I'm going to notice in any speech is you. Then I'm going to notice your voice, and then I'm going to notice your content, right? So we all think like the content is the main thing, and I always tell people that no, speech, no matter what you think of it, is always going to be a performance. Because similarly, when you write something, you need to edit it. You don't give people, if you write down some notes, you don't just give that to somebody, you edit that, and then you're saying, okay, now it's ready to be published. Similarly, when you're giving a speech, your performance is like you're editing. You're editing your speech, and now you're editing, your performance is like editing your motion on how you're going to communicate that through your voice, through your gestures, and the content, which makes it more difficult. That's why I think I kind of agree with Michael Port that every time you're speaking, you are performing. And if you don't understand that, then almost you're saying to people is that I'm just going to write some scribble on a piece of paper and people will understand it. You never do that. Newspapers don't publish things unless it's edited. And similarly, when you're speaking, it's almost like you're performing. Performing is your way of editing what you're going to say. I don't know if that analogy makes sense or not. And that's how you have to view whenever you're speaking. Is it a performance that's designed so that it makes the other person understand your content? And that means, you have to use gestures, you have to use your voice in a certain way, you have to show enthusiasm, you have to show your passion. And I think with the hack a speech that you did, I saw the improvement from the first one to the second one to the third one. And I think when you recorded the third one, you seemed really relaxed. Like I said, was it perfect? No, it doesn't have to be perfect. But you clearly explained the 3 hacks, like one that takes less than a minute, one that takes a minute, one that takes 3 to 5 minutes. And I think the more and more you need to communicate with your audience, like ask them questions. So see how easy this is. Does this make sense? Isn't this something you should do right now? Just get them to do something right now, like you did just in your 3-minute speech. You got us to stand and say, everybody, right now, I just want you to stand and do it. You got to take charge. You've got to take charge when you're speaking, because when you're speaking, besides teaching, you're also leading. And if you're not leading, then the people are like, why should I follow you? So think about it that way, that when you're teaching these type of things like energy hack, You're not just teaching, you're also leading. Get them off their butt. If you can do that, then you're already winning. So any closing thoughts? I don't know if maybe I went on too long, but overall, I just like the way you're using this and hacking these speeches quickly rather than worrying about it. Like, I think in the past, you were more like, oh, I still have to work on this. I still have to work on this. It's not what I want it to be. And now I think you're taking this attitude like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to hack it, get it out there. And that in itself is a win. If it's not perfect, I'll just go and do it again, because that's what I want to do. I want to become an expert, become better by hacking it, rather than worrying about like, oh, let me see what Jay thinks. You know what? Screw what Jay thinks. I just did it. Any closing thoughts?
Yes, I think what we said was iterate often. Let the client or let the audience, in this case.
Iterate fast, release often.
Iterate fast, release often. I'm fully sign on to that. Practice, because that's actually how I deliver my systems when I was doing systems. I would just jump the gun and release some shit early, and then let the people, shoot the shit on it. But because I released early, there was no risks. People were much more forthcoming with criticisms, but they were also more supportive at the end because they owned it. They had their comments on it. So, yes, iterate fast, release often. I like that. Thank you.
And remember, anytime you create, you're going to get criticized. That's how it goes. So you can't if you don't want to be criticized, then don't create. So
I think the problem is I criticize myself, I have to let go of my own inner critic too.
Yeah, and you can't be too hard on yourself. You're the only thing that you have to err on is that I'm going to just create. If I create, then at least I can make it better. That's fine, but at least I've created it. A lot of times people don't even create because something is telling them, little man, their head is telling them, don't even create because you're just not good. And by hacking it, you're at least creating it. So I'll just give an example. When I did that video about teaching music, when I hacked it the first time, I got stuck somewhere, which you'll never see because I'll never put it out. And that had to do with when I say that artists create and we appreciate. And then I went into and say engineers build, and I couldn't come up with what would be analogous to that. And I was stuck. I was just going on and on and on and on. And then I said, okay, engineers, we have to live by it. And I just moved on to the next point. So what I liked about that was I didn't stop and hit the stop button. I just went on and went to my next point, and I finished the entire speech. And then afterwards, I went back and said, okay, what would be something? So I finally came up with something, said, artists create, we appreciate, engineers build, and we utilize. And so,
very nice.
So you will never see where I got stuck because when I hacked it, that was the whole point. I didn't want to stop it and make it perfect. I just went right from the beginning till the end. And by watching it, I could then see what are the things that I wouldn't want to do it again. How could I improve it? So hacking a speech, there are certain parts when I hacked it, I can't duplicate it. It's too good. And in the heat of the moment, I can't replicate that. So something that you'll also notice that when you hack it and then you go and try to do it for second take and first take, second take, third take, there are certain parts of it you may not be able to duplicate. But that's the way it goes.
Right. Okay, thanks, Jay. I think I'm going to sign off today because I need to go rest. I can feel my eyes starting to ache.
No, that's fine. I'll just give my comment on the third segment and then I'll end it there. Okay?
Okay, and I'll write on your comment. Oh, I might do a video on your comment later. So.
All right, Julie. Thanks a lot. I hope you feel better, and we'll take a brief pause. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for joining, Julie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, welcome back. This is Speech Talk Live, episode number 36. My name is Jay Oza, and this is segment number 3. And as you can see, I'm by myself, and I'm going to talk about this speech that Emile Wapnick gives for TEDx, some TEDx event. And the speech actually had to do with the topic, which I thought was really important. And what she's titled is like why some of us don't have one true calling. And I think you'll find that a lot of people struggle with this, that I would consider myself as a multi-potentialite. I like to do different things. I can't just keep doing one thing. If I was good at one thing, I mean, I'm good at it, but I want to also expand it. A good analogy is sort of like this, that when a rocket ship takes off, right? Let's say it's a three-stage rocket. You expend a lot of the fuel in the beginning, first mile or so, right? Just getting it off the ground uses up most of the fuel. And then the second stage takes over that helps you get up to the orbit. And then the remaining fuel is just to keep in the orbit. And in many cases, if you are a specialist, that's what you are. You basically are one rocket. That's it. You can't launch any more rockets because you just don't want to. You want to stay in the orbit for what you're there. Many of us are like multiple reusable rockets, right? We launch it and we go up the orbit, but we don't want to stay there forever. We just got there, we're done, boom. Now it's time to come and launch another rocket, go into the orbit again with something else. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I kind of view it. That's what multi-potentiality is, because we don't mind spending a lot of time and learning something new because that's our mastery. So we don't remain in the orbit. That kind of also, there are pluses and minuses. That's how we're wired, right? There's nothing you can do about it. Some people like to be in the orbit and they just want to remain there and they don't want to learn anything new or expend themselves to learn anything new. And that's fine. And she calls those people specialists. They would rather incrementally keep getting better, better, better. But after a while, you can't get any better than you already are. But they just want to stay there. That's their comfort zone, and that's fine. There are some people that are wired that way. They've gone through medical school or law school or whatever, business school, and they just want to live in that world that they think that's their calling, and that's it. They don't want to go outside that. So I think her topic was, I thought, very useful, because there are a lot of people like myself who like to try different things. Like I'm a techie, and now more and more I'm doing things that are not non-technical, such as public speaking is concerned, and even doing this show. So I'm kind of branching out into different things, and I tried different sports when I was younger. I played tennis, I played golf, did scuba diving, did all kinds of sailing, all kinds of skiing, all kinds of things. But I never really became good at any of those sports because I never could stick to doing just one thing. That's just not how I'm wired. I can play basketball really well, but not good enough to make the teams. I can play baseball well, but not good enough to really, get to that level where I could make it in a high school team or anything like that. But I can hold my own. I mean, if you give me a bat, I won't look like a fool not knowing what to do with it. Similarly with the golf club, I can't break 90 or anything like that, but I'll be able to talk about golf and even show you some of the things that I can do. So I consider myself a potentialite. What I like about this speech is the way I thought her content was excellent, and I thought she delivered it really well too. And I just want to kind of go through what she did. She starts out by asking questions. She asked, I think, 2 questions. Now, that actually is not a bad idea, but I'm not so sure that when there's a large audience, that's a good way to do it. I always feel that when there's a large audience and people ask a question, it's kind of a little gimmicky. I'm not sure she needed to ask the question. I mean, that's a minor point, but I might as well point it out because I was like, why would I ask a question when there are so many people? And when there's a small crowd, you can ask a question and then address individuals directly. Who just joined?
It's Michael here, just joined. Hi, Jay.
Hey, Michael. Okay, I was just, let me just finish something, okay? And then I'll catch up with you, okay? And can you mute your line?
How's that?
No, mute. Just mute it. There's a mute button right at the top. when you go there at the top, you'll see that microphone. Okay, that's good. I'll just finish this segment, and if you want to join in and participate, let me know, because I was talking about this. Julie had to leave. She had she had injured herself, so she couldn't stay on any longer. Okay, so I will come back to you, and then we can chat. Okay. All right. So let me just finish this speech construct. So this Emile Wapnick's TEDx talk. So she starts out by asking a question. And like I said, it's very effective when it's a small group, but with large audience, I'm not sure how effective that is. So that's a minor little tidbit that I thought was okay. I would not have asked the question when the crowd is large. Then she does something really well. She tells her own personal story of who she is and how that she has like all these multiple interests. She can never stick to one thing for a long time. And then she thought, is this something wrong with her? Is this an abnormality, or what's wrong with her? And then she explains that there is nothing wrong with her. So she's kind of very assuring to people who are similar to her, who have a lot of varied interest in different topics, different areas. And then she goes in and explains some of the superpowers of being that way, multi-potentialite. And she talks about idea synthesis, combining two ideas to come up with something new, ability to learn rapidly. As I said, multi-potentialites are like a rocket ship, right? They're not just one rocket launches a satellite and it stays in the orbit forever. They like to come back to the ground and launch again, something new. So that's the skill that they have. She calls it a superpower, that the rapid learning. And then the third superpower skill is this thing, she calls it adaptability. And this is something she feels is very important for the 21st century, where we have to constantly learn new things as the world is changing rapidly. So, and then she concludes the talk with the call to action, that there's nothing really wrong with you, right? And one thing I will quibble on is when she says that the world needs us, right? I think this is where I'll take a little issue. I think that's a good call to action, but I'm not sure that's how the world sees people who are multi-potentialite. Multi-potentialite is something that you got to know that's who you are. But outside, the world doesn't know what to do with people who are multi-potentialite. That's just my opinion. By that, I mean that people like things that are very much put in a certain bucket. They're very bucket-minded. Like if you fall into, that's why we have slogan and soundbite, because we are all cognitive misers. We don't want to expend a lot of energy trying to think about what you're capable of. And if you're capable of a lot, as far as the person is concerned, you can't do anything well, which is correct. You can't do anything really well, but that might be your strength. But that's not how the world sees people who are multi-potentialite. Multi-potentialites are great when it comes to running, starting a business, starting a company, because you need lots of different skills. But it's one of those things that I think people always feel that when she said there's something wrong with you, and that has a lot to do with because the world doesn't understand multi-potentialite. It's too taxing for people to know, hey, you have all these different capabilities. The only people who will know it are the people that are close to you. And after a while, they're going to say, you got to stick to one thing. You got to stick to one thing. So it's a kind of an interesting topic that she's talking about, that, yes, there are all these superpowers. But the question is, did the world out there, can they really appreciate a multi-potentialite? And my gut reaction is, based on what I deal with, is no, the world doesn't appreciate it. The world rather have you be good at one thing so they can like lump you in a particular bucket and saying, yes, Jay, he's expert on public speaking. Now, I could be good in other things, but that's not how the world wants to see us. So there's a lot of marketing and all that. But that's just the overall idea. Overall, I thought it was an excellent speech.